And to discuss these latest developments in Syria, I'm joined now by international security analyst Markus Kaim. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
A lot to talk about, Markus. Let's start off then with the Kurdish forces in Syria. Why now this apparent marriage of convenience with the Syrian army?
I mean, a couple of days ago, we were discussing the implications of the US withdrawal from Syria. And today we have seen at least one major implications. The Kurds in northern Syria have lost their most important ally with the withdrawal or announced withdrawal of the US forces from Syria. And therefore, they have to reorient their political preferences. And that explains this unusual and unexpected step. As you called it, the marriage of convenience between the two opposing forces, the Kurdish northern militia, or northern Syrian militia, and the Syrian government.
Right. I mean, as you point out, that seems to be the move that has changed everything at the moment in this current situation. And we've heard from the Turkish President Erdogan saying that he just wants to remove what he calls a terrorist organisation, of course, referring to the YPG. Can we expect Turkey to stay out of Syria then if the Syrian army takes over from the Kurdish troops?
I mean, Turkey has not stayed out of Syria. We had two major military operations which have led to some occupied Syrian territory or occupied by the Turkish forces. I don't expect any major military advancements by the Turkish side for one simple reason. Turkey has accomplished their major strategic goal to avoid a Kurdish independent state in the Middle East, which has been the overarching foreign policy goal of all Turkish governments for the last decades. And they accomplished this goal without intervening another time, without occupying another part of Syria, and therefore I do not see a major reason for military advancements.
We understand, let's say then, on the diplomatic side, that Turkish and Russian ministers are meeting in Moscow on Saturday to discuss the US pullout. I mean, can we expect a truce or at least a common goal to come out of those discussions?
I'm not really sure, but what we're going to see or what is emerging is the post-war Syrian order, and the powers are emerging who are shaping the post-war Syrian order. The one in the country is Syrian President Assad. He's the dominant political as well as military force. And the three major outside powers have emerged: Turkey, Iran and Russia. And it's interesting and maybe for a lot of people frustrating that the Old West, to put it this way, does not play any major role in shaping the post-war Syrian order, and I would go so far as to say the post-war Middle Eastern order. No role for the United States and no role for the European Union.
You talk about the post-war Syria and the order there. What we could potentially be seeing now, some people might say, is a power struggle. And with that in mind and that potentially emerging, might US troops then decide to stay longer in the country? I mean, no date has actually been set at the moment for their pullout.
Difficult to say. As we have seen for over the last 2 years, the US President Trump is rather unpredictable. So it might be the case that he's revising his former decision or the decision of this week. But as far as I can see, the overarching goal has been to fight ISIL in the Middle East, Syria as well as Iraq. And the preference obviously is to put or to leave US forces in Iraq, 6,000 and withdraw forces from Syria. And that does make sense from a strategic point of view, because the second overarching goal is to contain or to put political pressure on Iran. And therefore, the military presence in Syria is not desperately needed from the US perspective.
Right. I mean, the president has always made that very clear right from the beginning of his campaign. And indeed, he said that this is not about nation building. He's also said that the US are, quote, no longer the suckers. Others need, that's a direct quote, others need to continue fighting the war in Syria. Could that work?
I'm not really sure. I think what we're going to see is a dominant President Assad, and we have two different maps here, a political map and a military map. And the military map shows growing areas of the rule of President Assad, ruled by his forces. And there are certain parts which have not been reconquered by the Syrian forces, but in the political map clearly shows that he's in the driver's seat. And every time we talk about the political future of Syria, political process of Syria, I think there's no way out of accepting that he's the dominant person.
International security analyst Markus Kaim, good to have your analysis as ever.
Thank you.
Thank you.